What's up guys, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking you through goal setting. So a lot of us have heard of the SMART principles for goal setting, but I have a couple of extra steps to make those goal setting techniques even smarter. So it's that crazy time of year where we're all thinking about our New Year's resolutions, and I for one love New Year's resolutions because I love goal setting and ticking things off my list. But I know sometimes it can be really hard to choose what your goals should be for 2019, what you should set your resolutions as. Are you going to stick to them and tick them off, or is it going to be one of those things that you kind of put on your list and you never quite achieve? Well, I'm going to teach you a few tips on how to set appropriate goals, what kind of goals you can choose, and then ways that you can actually tick them off your list. So before I get stuck into my actual goal setting tips, I just want to break down a few different kinds of health and fitness goals that you may not have considered, because I know for a lot of us, myself included, and probably a lot of you watching right now, your first thing that jumps to mind is some kind of aesthetic, physical, like superficial goals. So something like build more muscle or lose fat or lose weight in general. That tends to be a lot of people's like go-to New Year's resolution when you're thinking about health and fitness, but there are so many other health and fitness goals that you can set and achieve that will positively impact your life in so many ways. So I like to have a range of different health and fitness goals, like kind of one from each little area, to make sure that I'm not just focusing on like only the aesthetic superficial things, but also things that positively impact my life for the long haul. So aside from the obvious aesthetic goals, fitness and strength goals are really important ones for your training. So fitness would be more in relation to like your cardiovascular fitness. So if you're a runner, improving your pace or your distance, or even if it's just something more endurance based, like being able to use the Stairmaster for X amount of time, or get through a body attack class without being puffed out and not finishing, or if you've got a particular workout that you've been struggling to get to the end to, or you can only do 2 rounds of a circuit and you want to get to 3, they're fantastic things to work towards. As well as strength goals, which is pretty obvious that, you know, you just want to get stronger. So again, this is going to support those body composition goals by making you challenge your body, and it's also just badass to feel like you set yourself a strength goal and you ticked it off the list. So you could put a certain lift that you want to be able to do, you know, a deadlift at like X amount of weight, or 10 push-ups or 5 bodyweight pull-ups, something that you can work towards to push you in your training, and then tick that off the list. Even if it's just something like introducing a new exercise that you've never done before. If you've never deadlifted, maybe that's something you can put on your list to learn the correct technique. For me in 2018, it wasn't exactly a New Year's resolution, but there was a point where I was like, you know what, I've never really done front squats before. I would love to learn how to do them and maybe eventually get my front squat to be as strong as my back squat. And that was a really fun challenge for me. I was sick of squatting, and it gave me like a new lease on life to work on my front squats, and eventually now I can front squat as much as I can back squat, and I feel like that's kind of cool. So that was a really good one for me. You can also work on mindset goals. So if you are struggling with self-confidence, or you're not assertive enough, or you have a negative relationship with food, these are also things that you can factor in and try and improve. So maybe just pinpoint a few areas that you think you could really work on and take some steps to positively influence that in your life. You can also think about some health goals. So if you are not focusing enough on healthy food, or you're not drinking enough water, you aren't getting enough fiber, maybe you're not having enough fruit or greens, or you're having too much takeaway, whatever it is, I like to always set like at least one thing to focus on improving my health, to make me more conscious of like healthy eating and just like improve things from the inside. And lastly, lifestyle goals are fantastic to have. That could be reducing your stress, getting in more sleep, spending more time outside, going for walks more frequently. That was a really big one for me in 2018. I really wanted to start working on a daily step count, and I have kind of really made an effort to do that outside as much as possible when the weather permits. And that's been not only good for, you know, my health and great calorie burn, but it's also amazing for my mindset to just spend more time outside, just walking and enjoying the fresh air. So there's a whole range of types of goals that you could set for yourself that are not just about how you look, but will just improve how you feel and how healthy you truly are on the inside. So I urge you to think about some of those other kind of factors when you are setting your New Year's resolutions for this year. All right, that long-winded introduction, let's get into SMART goal setting, or the way I do it, which is smarter goal setting. So this is an acronym, I think that's the word for it, where each letter is assigned a meaning. So the first one is S, which is specific. So when you set your goal or goals, you want to have something that is specific. So it's not just lose weight or get fitter or get stronger. That's a very broad term, and it's hard to actually achieve something if it's that broad. So try and get a little bit more specific. So if your goal is fat loss, maybe work on, you know, if you're currently a size 14 and you want to get to a 12, that's a really good clear benchmark, a specific one that you can achieve, or a certain measurement. If I probably say, like, don't focus too much on scale weight, because that's not always going to be indicative of fat loss. Or if it's a fitness goal, let's, you know, be able to run X amount of kilometers in this many minutes, or achieve a deadlift of X amount of weight. So try and like put a little bit of specificity behind that goal so that it's clear when you reach that goal and you can tick it off. The M is measurable. So that basically goes hand in hand. So if you can't measure the goal, if it's too broad, how do you know if you're going to achieve it? So that's why setting those numbers or those benchmarks behind it is going to help, because you can not only know when you're achieving the goal, but you'll also know how far away you are from it. So for example, if you currently deadlift 100 kilos and you want to get to 120 kilos, you know when you hit 110, you're halfway. You can measure your progress, you know how much further you've got to go, and you can kind of implement small steps to get there. A is achievable. So you don't want to set a goal that is completely out of reach, that is something that's really going to be a struggle, because you want to make sure that you can do it. Like, yes, set the bar high, but maybe not too high that it's gonna be a real struggle and you're gonna be disheartened if you don't achieve it. So, you know, you don't wanna go from 100 kilo deadlift to 150, might not be realistic in that time frame. So set something that you're confident that, yeah, it's probably a push, but you think if you put the work in, you can actually get there. You need to A, believe that you can do it, and B, really work towards it to make it happen. So it's gotta be achievable. R is for relevant. So I feel like this is probably most important if you're setting a range of goals, because not only do you want each goal to be relevant to you and to your life and to your passions, but also to be relevant to each other and not like contradicting each other in the goals that you're setting. So for example, if you are really, really passionate about strength goals, or you want to start powerlifting or something that is, you know, definitely more strength based, you probably don't want to be setting goals on like running a certain distance, because that's going to be like two completely opposite ends of the spectrum, and doing one is not really going to support the other. So have a think about what your goals are, make sure that they're relevant to you. You also don't want to be setting a goal just to set a goal. So if you don't actually give a shit about getting stronger, then don't set a strength goal, because it's not relevant to you and the things that you love. So set something that is really important to you that you want to achieve, because that fits into your lifestyle. Same deal with, like, say you're a busy mom, you work a ton and you don't have a lot of time in your life, maybe don't set a goal to go to the gym 6 times a week, because it's not really relevant to your lifestyle and it might not actually be super possible for you. So pick something that actually fits into your life and suits your life as a whole. Does that make sense? Last of the SMART goals is time specific. So when we're talking New Year's resolutions, I guess majority of the time that is something that we want to achieve in the following year, but make something that does have a deadline. So even if it's not something that's a whole year away, even if it's like you want to achieve it by a mid-year or by your birthday or whenever it is, try and set yourself a deadline for each goal, just so that you kind of have something to push you to keep working towards. I find I definitely work better myself when I have a deadline looming. I like to just kind of be pushed by that thread of like, okay, I've got to get this done in the next few weeks or months. Whereas if I don't have a specific goal and I'm not working on a particular deadline, I kind of just tend to keep pushing it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to achieve it one day. I'm going to get there. So a really important part of goal setting is not only knowing what you want to achieve, but when you want to achieve it by. And breaking that down even further is if it's a long-term goal, like 6 or 12 months away, in order to keep yourself engaged and working towards it, I would set yourself little benchmarks along the way. So if it is, say it's a 12-month goal, you want to add 20 kilos to your deadlift. Cool, you can break that down into every quarter of the year. So every 3 months, you want to be able to increase by at least 5 kilos so that each of those 4 quarters adds up to the 20 kilos across the year. That way you know if you're falling behind. If you get 3 months down the track, you haven't hit that 5 kilo improvement, you're like, okay, either you need to work harder or you need to reassess your goals. So it's just a really good way to break it down and not fall behind on your goal or not feel like it's too overwhelming to achieve all of that. You know, baby steps is always really helpful. The last 2 steps of what I've personally added myself to make goal setting even smarter is to add the E and the R. So the E is execution. This is your how. So this is how you actually going to achieve your goal. So if your goal is fat loss, great. How are you actually going to do this? Are you going to hold yourself accountable? Are you going to hire a coach? Are you going to start tracking your macros? What kind of swaps are you going to make in your life to make healthier choices to make that happen? So the how is such an important part of your goal setting and of actually achieving that goal. So I think it's really important to find some steps that you can start implementing straight away to have a structure behind that goal and a way to create a pattern to follow to make sure that you can tick that goal off your list. Because it's one thing to have a goal, but if you don't know how you're going to achieve it, what steps are you going to implement? This is an important one. The last one, R, is reevaluate and reset. So I did touch on this a little bit earlier about how important it is to set smaller benchmarks along the way. So for me, I think at least the halfway point is a really, really good one. So if you have a time-specific goal, you want to get to the halfway point and ideally be halfway towards your goals. So what I do with my 8-week challenge girls is at week 4, which is the halfway point, I like to review the entire 4 weeks as a whole and have a look at how have we done for the first half of the challenge? Have we achieved half of our goals? And what have we got left to achieve in the second half of this challenge? So we will reevaluate their body composition, their measurements, their strength goals, any other goals they've set, their consistency in terms of effort levels leading up to this point. Have they worked hard enough in the first half to make sure that the second half is set up and ready to reach those goals? So really important to kind of put in those little benchmarks wherever you feel they fit for you, ideally at least the halfway point, just to be able to say, okay, what have I done? Am I halfway to my goal at this halfway deadline? Do I need to work harder or do I need to reset my goal and make it something a little bit more realistic? Do I need to change my deadline slightly? Am I ahead of schedule and I'm going to tick it off even earlier? That's also fantastic. So I think it's just really good to find a place within your timeline that you can reevaluate where you're at, make sure you're working hard enough, make sure you're seeing the progress that you want to be seeing at that point, and reset your goals if you need to. And along with this is also resetting goals at the end of once you've achieved one. So if you get your deadlift from 100 to 120 kilos in a year, that's fucking amazing. Awesome. Where do you go from there? Do you want to further improve on that? Do you want to work on your form a little bit more? Do you want to try a different style of deadlifting to then tick that off your list? So I think being able to not only assess where you're at with one goal, but then also to keep progressing in future is a really great way to continue to challenge yourself and to feel amazing and proud of something, because ticking off a goal is honestly one of the most rewarding things you can do with your health and fitness journey. So every time you get a chance to evaluate where you've come from and celebrate that and pat yourself on the back for achieving a goal or even just getting to the halfway point, it's a great feeling. Those are my tips for smarter goal setting. So I hope that that's been really helpful for you guys. If you have any questions at all, drop them in the comments below and I will get back to you. But I hope that that's going to help you in setting your New Year's resolutions and your goals for 2019. I will be filming a separate video on my own 2019 goals. So I'll talk you through what I'm planning on achieving. I have a whole bunch of things on my to-do list and it's going to need a whole separate video. But I would love to hear what your goals are for 2019 and if you'll be joining me on one of my challenges or my coaching team. I can't wait to chat through these with you, and let's start ticking things off our list. Of course, my battery dies right before I film the outro, so I'm just gonna say a quick thank you for watching today. If you enjoyed this video and you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe to my channel or follow me on Instagram. You can find me at Sammy Rose Fitness. That's where I post the majority of my content, but I appreciate you watching today, and I will catch you guys in the next video.